Alright. I didn't have any interesting dreams last night, but I had one yesterday. And in addition to that, I want to also record some of what I call my core memories. Dreams that I've had in the past, or like feelings and images that I feel like are worth holding on to. And I don't know why I would forget them if I'd remember them all this time. But it's one of those things where you never know when it might slip away. Just the right amount of other extra stuff pushes its way into your brain, and some of the old storage space has to get cleaned out. So first I'm going to tell the dream I had, not last night but the night before, and then I'm going to tell some of like my core dreams and thoughts, memories. The first dream from 2 nights ago, Emily and I had just gotten married. Well, we were in the early, like, I think we'd been married like a year or something. And we've been looking for houses. There was no Callan, there was no Justin. Tired. And we still lived in Zealand. Man, I don't know if I'm up for this. Tell this dream. I'm tired. I think we're gonna push through. We were looking for houses, and I had said to Emily, like, I don't want anything from in Zealand, because for one, I don't want to live in the city, and two, there are lots of people who do want to live in the city, and that drives the price up. So for what you get, it's not a great value. You pay a lot for not that much, simply because of location. Kind of like here in Allendale, it's a 25-minute drive to my work. But when we bought back in 2019, for the amount of money that we spent on our house, you get a much better plot of land and everything. And I never thought we'd end up here in Allendale. But back to the dream. I basically told Emily, don't even bother filtering any results on Zillow for Zealand, because we're not living there. Well, Emily decided to look anyways, just because we had already looked everywhere else. And Emily found a house on like 5 acres of land on the outskirts of Zealand. And at first I didn't even want to look at it, because it was just like, well, I really don't want to live in Zealand, and that's that. But Emily was just, kind of like, well, would you just look, and if you don't like it, then we don't have to go there. The house was made in like the 1870s, but they had gone through it and like updated the electronics and the appliances, of course, and all that jazz. It was like a 5-bed, 2.5 bath. It was a nice house. So I said, well, what's the harm if we go look at the place? So we called our realtor, said we wanted to get in there, and we came through. Really liked the house, but they said they've already got a written offer. When we got there, they said we've already got a written offer. So if you really like this place, I hate to do this to you, and this is just kind of the way the market is right now. Hate to do this to you, but if you want this place, you're gonna have to beat this person's offer today. You're gonna have to put it in writing that you want this house, and we'll go from there. So I was kind of like, well, what do we want to do? And Emily just said, you didn't know. I said, I really think the house is good. And Emily just said, well, we haven't had it inspected yet. There could be something really wrong with it. And we won't know. We're taking a huge gamble. So I just said, well, let's go through the house one more time, you and me. There's nothing that, from an old house like this, it's simple, and this is probably not true, but this is what I said. There's nothing that is going to be there that I'm not going to be able to, find it if there's something seriously wrong. So we went back through it one more time. We liked it. We put in an offer. We got the house. So we started moving our stuff in shortly thereafter. We were still living at Emily's grandpa's house in Zeeland, but we're moving our stuff in over the course of a week. And when we first got there to start moving in our stuff, there was an older fella there, and he just said, hi, how's it going? I'm just here to the water heater upstairs just needed a new valve, so or something like that. I'm just gonna go and fix that real quick, and then I'll be out of here. My eyes aren't good, so I didn't drive here. I took a taxi or something. He said my grandson dropped me off or something. So that's why there's no car here. Never mind me. I'll be out, and then my grandson will pick me up, or whatever it was, the taxi or whatever. So we didn't think anything of it. We dropped off a big load of our stuff, and then we left. And then, it kind of went on like that. We would gather up stuff throughout the week. We'd go after work and drop off a load of stuff. And it kind of went like that, and we were finally moved in. And we were in the kitchen one night, and all of a sudden, drip, 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 there was water dripping from the ceiling. And I'm like, great. We just bought this stupid place, and the roof needs to be replaced. And we went to bed. I put a bucket up, and we went to bed. And then the next morning there were more drips. So we put buckets up, and then when we opened the curtains, we realized it was a sunny day, and it hadn't rained the night before. So we're like, oh my gosh, this water is not coming from the roof, it's coming from inside the house somewhere. Well, we looked and looked and looked and looked, and we could not find where the water was. And we were gonna call, there's somebody at our church who actually in real life inspected our house. He owns a business called Shoemaker Inspections. So in the dream I said, what if we hire that guy from church, Shoemaker Inspections, to come around and to help us out, like ASAP? And Emily said, yeah, we could try that. We could start with that. I called him and asked him to come over. Well, while we were waiting for him, I wasn't satisfied with my previous efforts. So I thought, I'm gonna look in the closets to see if there's like a tile or something that pulls down, like a secret entrance to an upstairs area. Because nothing that I could tell had like some houses, when there's an attic, there'll be like a little string hanging from the ceiling that you pull down and it reveals a set of stairs or whatever. Well, I found in one of the closets there was a tile that had been moved back, and the support boards of the cupboard in the shelf, the boards in the shelf inside the closet were like the steps that you went up. You kind of had to like brace yourself against the sides of the inside of the closet and use those as steps to climb up. Well, I did that, and it revealed this gigantic upstairs area, and it was completely flooded. And unbeknownst to me, the guy who was gonna fix our water, and it had been like a week since he came over. When he went up there, he fell and hit his head, and it like paralyzed him. And so the water had just been running and slowly flooding the entire upstairs area. All of there was like a wooden beams that were going like across the roof area, and I could just take my finger and just almost pinch the wood in half. It was like untreated wood from way back when, and it was all just completely ruined. And I'm like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna have to call the police. We realized the guy was still alive. He had been like drinking the water that was flooding to stay alive. He was still alive, but he was paralyzed. He couldn't move, and he couldn't really yell for help. We called 911. They got him out of there, and we went to tell Emily's parents what had happened. And her dad was like, well, that serves you right for not having the house inspected first. I don't feel bad for you. We were just totally, completely screwed. Because the house that we just put money down on like it was completely wrecked. That was a sucky dream. The other dreams that I've had, when I was a kid, I had a dream that, and I don't know even if this was a dream, it might have been something I saw on TV. This was a core memory. There was this black police officer. He was a little bit heavy, was wearing sunglasses. It was like if you put yourself in this experience, it was like maybe 80 degrees outside, maybe like 7 o'clock. The sun was kind of starting to go down. And he came out of like this phone booth, or like this booth that you wait for the bus at. And he had a banana popsicle. And he had sunglasses on, he had a hat on, the way typical 90s cops were dressed. His patrol car was like behind him. And he came out of the little booth and he started explaining all of his different equipment that he carried. He carried handcuffs, he carried a pistol, he carried extra magazines, he carried a nightstick, pepper spray, radio. Like, he just went through the list and explained these things. And he had a banana popsicle, and I think it might have been banana chocolate. It's really just like a feeling. Like, I don't even know if this actually ever happened or if it existed. The other one that I had, that I can immediately think of, when I was like maybe 6 or 7, really pushing back there. We were I was in this like virtual reality world. I was dressed exactly like Junie from Spy Kids 3. I had like his yellow suit on. And this was before Spy Kids 3 came out, because I remember when I saw the trailer for Spy Kids 3 and thinking, they stole my dream. We were in like this virtual reality digital video game thing. I think it was me, my dad, Greg, and like some other people that we didn't even know. And we were like running down these hallways, and we would run from one area to another. And I think I had like a laser wristband thing, kind of like Buzz Lightyear. There were no bad guys. The objective was just to run from one area to the other and make it through the level. So we pretty much did that. Okay, hang on. Alright, buddy, we can go. We pretty much did that. We arrived at the like lobby where they would give you a score. And in the lobby there was this guy on like a hover bike. Think like a speeder bike, kind of, from Star Wars. And it was like attached to this metal ring that it kind of hung from. And there was a screen in front of it. And he was doing like this speeder bike simulation training. And when we got to the lobby, the guy who was like dressed up in the commander uniform, he said to us on our performance, He said, well, it wasn't a high score, but it was the best one ever. Here's a couple more I'm going to see if I can squeeze in before I get to work, because I'm almost there. There was one I had when I was like maybe 6. We were at Craig's Cruisers. It was me, my dad, and I think one of my friends. And the little area where we were, in real life, I think they used to have like a tower near the pond area, or like a sign that said Craig's Cruisers on it that you could see from the highway. And we were there. We were up above the water, way up above. And I was jumping from this ledge onto the sign and then back. And my dad was like, I wouldn't do that, Jer. I wouldn't do that. It wasn't like, what are you doing? You're gonna die. Get back here. You know, it was just like, he just had his arms folded. Like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And I did it like 3 or 4 times back and forth, like just to show that I could do it. Then finally I slipped and fell into the water tower. And when I fell, this is the creepy part. It wasn't like I just fell into the water and it was over. It was like I fell slowly, like in slow motion, like with my legs above me and my head like down, and I looked up and I could hear this vacuum noise just, and I just heard, bye. You know, like in Toy Story, it had to be around the time Toy Story 2 came out, because that one part where Woody's having a nightmare where he falls into those cards and Andy realizes he's broken. He doesn't want him anymore. And he goes, oh, you're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore. And he drops him. And he's like falling. And he's stuck in this garbage can with all these other broken toys. And Andy goes, bye, Woody. Like, that's basically the aesthetic that was going on. Crap. Hang on, I'm backing up. Backing up. Hopefully we don't hit anybody. Okay. And we're good. There was one more I can think of immediately. Well, 2 more I can think of immediately offhand. They're coming back to me. There was one where, think of like you're at Chuck E. Cheese, but you're on acid. Everything is very dark and red. And the stage had these animatronics like viciously dancing. This one really goes back. I had to have been like 4 when this happened. And there's a reason for that I'll tell you. And you got to keep in mind, you think of this. This one comes from the mind of a 4-year-old. I was on stage and hold up. Wow. Can't even get your door open. Okay. There was somebody trying to get into their car, and they just kept trying and trying and trying, and they couldn't push the stinking button because they were not so smart. This one comes from the mind of a 4-year-old, like I said. There was this girl dancing on stage. And like, in the dream, she took out her thing, which I didn't know girls don't have that, and like started peeing into the air. And for some reason, that was incredibly embarrassing for me that I couldn't do that. So I took mine out and started peeing into the air. And everybody was laughing at me because I couldn't do it nearly as good as she could. And so this Chuck E. Cheese's was in like this mall. And when the Chuck E. Cheese closed and I had to leave, of course my parents weren't there. When I had to leave, I had to exit out like this big long corridor. You know how in the mall, like, there's like these chain length, like when they open the gate, there's like a chain length gate that they kind of lower down over the door. That kind of went down across the entrance to the Chuck E. Cheese. And all of a sudden, these great big robot bees came out. And at this point in the dream, it was kind of like you were playing a Sega game or a Super Nintendo game where like everything is 2D. You can only go left and right. The camera angle, so to speak, kind of went to that. I could see myself. And I was running from these bees. And the bees were chasing me. And they would like put their stinger forward and lasers would shoot out, and I had to try and jump so that I didn't get hit by the lasers. The one more I'll say, oh man, I gotta tell the one about Queen Frostine another time. That one is wild. There was one more Chuck E. Cheese related. I guess I was just terrified of Chuck E. Cheese when I was a kid. There was one where I went to this place called Mighty Cheese. And like the entire time we were there, like I was playing these games, and I felt like every time I played a game, like I just got weaker. I was just getting really tired. And the whole time, like when I went there in the beginning, there was like a really creepy looking Chuck E. Cheese up on stage. And like in the beginning, he was very Robotronic. He kind of moved the way you would think. And the more I played video games, I would get done playing a game and I would go like walking past the stage and I would look at him, and in the beginning, like I said, he was just kind of Robotronic. But the more games I played, it felt like he was looking at me. And it was like the games were like sucking my soul away. And I was becoming more weak and Robotronic. And he was becoming more lifelike. I'll have to tell the one about Queen Frostine. That one is utterly terrifying. I'll see if I can remember to tell that one. That one didn't happen when I was a kid. That one happened maybe a couple of years ago. But I don't have time to tell that one. That one is a big, long one on its own.